Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the True Crime Chica. Today, we'll be discussing the very recent case of Andres Filomeno, also known as the Butcher of Atizapan, a Mexican 70-year-old man who was considered quiet and cooperative with neighbors but had a terrible secret. Let's begin. It is reported that Filomeno hid almost 4,000 human remains. Yeah, you heard that right. And there is evidence that he could have killed and dismembered more than 30 women in the last 20 years, given the lack of effort by the Mexican justice systems to solve any missing persons cases. The following are the keys to the most recent serial killer arrested in the state of Mexico. Not long ago in 2018, the so-called monster of Ecatepec, he was actually a criminal who sold the bones of his victims, was arrested in the same area where Filomeno was living. According to witnesses, Andres Filomeno passed for a calm and exemplary neighbor living in the municipality of Atizapan de Zaragoza in the state of Mexico, a region located in the center of the country. According to witnesses, he never had a partner or was married, but he owned the property in which he lived, where he even rented a room for a couple with children. He had become president of the neighborhood association, and he was also a representative of the Citizens Participation Committee, where he managed the process of aid and pantries for neighbors who needed it. According to an employee of a local bar Filomeno attended regularly, he said that they knew him as a man of advanced age, respectful, calm, and noble, who did not mess with anyone and who came to the bar to have a few drinks, relax, or hang out with girls. In that when he finished drinking, and I quote, he always took a girl and most of them did not object. First, because he was always with money and paid them very well, and then because they knew he was a calm man with whom they were not in danger because they knew him very well, added the waiter, who clarified that the women who left with Andres always returned the next day. And no one verified his statements or continued to investigate him. When it comes to Filomeno's involvement with the law, he was actually questioned 5 years ago by prosecutors concerning the disappearance of a mother and his son. However, he was let go because they had no evidence leading him as being involved with their disappearance. He had been the last person who had seen them. The reason why he got caught? His last crime. Everything would have remained the same if it hadn't been for the circumstances of his last crime. He killed his neighbor. In mid-May, his neighbor Bruno came to his house to ask if he had not seen his wife, Reina Gonzalez, a 34-year-old woman who also worked in a phone store. In addition, Bruno and Reina had helped Andres financially out of pity when they saw his difficult situation. Andres replied to Bruno that he had not seen his wife. However, Bruno went to the police to file the complaint, but the authorities, as is normal in Mexico, did absolutely nothing. Bruno works as a policeman, so he just didn't sit by. With the help of tools, he was actually able to locate the last position of his wife's phone before it turned off and placed it in the vicinity of Andres' house. The next day, he requested the support of two other companions and went back to Andres' house. This one, seeing himself confronted, tried to sneak into the house, a moment that Bruno took advantage of to go in and look for a clue. In this investigation, he found the door of a basement where he found more than just evidence. Reina's body was actually hidden there, dismembered. In that same room, the subsequent investigation has found that almost 4,000 bone remains could belong to at least 30 victims that the Atizapan butcher could have butchered over 2 decades. In the house of Atizapan, the authorities have found a list with about 30 names that begins in 1994, and that could be the registry of women who have been killed by this man. The detainee began to unravel details of the death of Reina and other women. After being arrested, Andres Filomeno was brought before the judge, where he openly admitted the death of Reina and other women. And I quote, he said, "All I want is to tell the truth. I've done it. Although the bone remains found in the basement could not be identified, the authorities have found countless pieces of evidence such as credentials, recordings, Polaroid pictures, keys, mobile phones, and other objects that the forensic experts are analyzing to identify the victims. The prosecutors believes that in those photos and recordings, some made in VHS format, are images in which Andres was recorded dismembering his victims so that the memories will remain as a souvenir. According to his statement, the modus operandi and the motive seemed to be repeated in all of his victims. They were almost always young women between 20 and 35 years old who he courted and ultimately rejected him. He chose them because they were pretty, as he has confessed. After being rejected, the murderer was looking for the moment to lure them to his home and kill them there with a stab in the heart, as he was experiencing the use of knives, as he had worked as a butcher years ago. He dismembered them with expert cuts and even skinned their faces to preserve it. The investigation has found several of these human masks in the basement of his home. In addition, he admitted that he ate the mortal remains of some of his victims and that he preserved their remains in salt. According to investigators, part of the body of his latest victim had already been cut into steaks by the time they found him. Yeah, steaks. This case has been actually caused a lot of controversy in Mexico because the details, even though I've tried to say as much as I possibly can without creeping you out, it's worse than that. It gets just that much worse. And the disappearance of many are actually related to his case. However, the authorities never chose to pursue these cases.
Fuiste ratero, fuiste secuestrador, fuiste, mataste, pues ya lo hice, ya uno ya lo hizo.
And this concludes our episode for today. Thank you for joining me today at the True Crime Chica. If you really liked it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you really, really, really liked it, share it with your friends. See y'all next case. Until next time.